Hi everybody, welcome to the new Reaper 101 course on YouTube. I'm Adam Steele, your host. You may have seen a previous version of this course before when I had long hair and Reaper was a little older, but now here we are at Reaper 6.82 at current time of filming. And so I'm going to be making a 10-part series to get you from not knowing anything about what a DAW is, all the way through to really being able to use Reaper quite successfully. Also, there is now going to be the new version of the Ultimate Reaper Guide available on ProMix Academy. The link to that will be down in the description below, but that's the really expanded version where we go into every little detail, we do a full recording and a mix, we talk about all sorts of cool stuff that's not covered here. I should note at this point that Reaper 7 is just around the corner as of filming this video. The next few videos, the parts 1, 2 and 3, I'm using the most recent public version, which is Reaper 6.82, to show you what's going on. But if you get Reaper 7 and watch this series, everything is in exactly the same places. Everything looks a little more shiny, but the concepts and all the buttons and controls and everything are in the same places. So fear not, there is a lot of similarity between versions of Reaper, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is part 0, and this is me briefly covering why Reaper. Why do I use Reaper? Why do I think you should use it? I'm not affiliated with the company that make it, Korkos. I don't even know if they know who I am, so this isn't a sponsored thing or anything. This is me making some videos and my course with ProMix Academy. But I've been using Reaper now for about 15 years. When I started using it many years ago, I was already heavily into audio production. I had been doing a university production course, and I've been working with bands producing albums. But the software available at the time either wasn't doing exactly what I wanted it to do, or it cost an absolute arm and a leg to be able to do the things I was asking of it. For example, Pro Tools at the time was either heavily limited in terms of track count, or to use an HD system to get something that would run the kind of sessions I had in mind, we were talking $10,000+ investment in the HD system alone. Cubase at the time was the thing that I had learnt at a Steinberg accredited university, but at that time it didn't do certain things in a very analog way, which is the way that I kind of think. I think in the traditional kind of big mixing desk reach to things on a console kind of way. And Reaper can work that way. It can also work a few other ways, but that's one of the beauties of Reaper, is that you can really use it how you want to use it to achieve the goal you want to achieve. Now that might have sounded a little bit vague, the goal you want to achieve, but Reaper's so powerful it can do a great number of things. It can be used in kind of traditional music production, so you can use it for mixing, recording, mastering. You can also really quickly record and edit voiceover. You can record for games with sound design. You can do things with multi-channel like 5.1 or getting into immersive audio kind of territory. You can do so many things that it's hard for me to list them all. There's a mod that turns Reaper into a rock band song generator with all the kind of the instruments that go along with that kind of idea. There are things that you can do with scripts that are really advanced. You can automate all kinds of things. You can have Reaper kind of do whatever you want it to do, whether it's readily available as a button or something you can program in yourself using the console or Python or Lua. There are all sorts of ways to make this software do exactly what you want it to do if it doesn't already do what you want it to do. Talking of doing what you want it to do, if you've been using something like Logic or Cubase or Pro Tools previously and you're really set on using those keyboard shortcuts and all that kind of working in a very specific way, Reaper can be customized to use any keyboard shortcuts in any way you like. You can completely reconfigure it to work how you like. There are also customizable themes, so you can change the entire look of Reaper if you desire. You can make it look like the Starship Enterprise, or you can make it look like a Pro Tools or a Logic kind of session. And then you can have all the relevant buttons in a place you're familiar with, maybe before you move on to a more kind of default Reaper theme, which is, in my opinion, designed for the quickest and most efficient production methods, or going into something that's completely different entirely that I've never seen. Reaper isn't open source, but it's very compatible with plugins, user-generated content and ideas. There are things like there's an entire setup for people who are visually impaired, so you can natively run Reaper without using Sight. There are modifications to do all sorts of things. You can control it with a joypad, a control surface of almost any kind. I can remotely control most things with my phone on the same network. I can send audio from one copy of Reaper to another over a network, all built in, with some small additions like repack, which means that you can search a giant list of packages for things that aren't currently in there. If a user has made that as a plugin, you can just select it in a list and hit install, and off you go. Reaper also works on Mac, both old and new. It's Apple Silicon native. It works on Windows, old and new. Runs on Linux, on everything from PCs to Raspberry Pis to Steam Decks. All sorts of stuff. Anything pretty much that was made as a computer in the last 10 years at least should run Reaper. And that means that you can take it anywhere. It's portable. If you want, you can install it on a USB stick. So you take that to a friend's house and you want to show them without installing it, or you want to have your exact preferences and your configuration stored on a USB stick. You take that somewhere else, plug it in, and go. Reaper also works with external plugins of pretty much every kind that I can think of. The PC version runs VSTs, VST3s. They've got their own plugin type called JS, where you can just open the code and tweak it as you like. The Mac version opens AU plugins as well. I think the Mac version opens LV2, but I know the Linux version does open LV2 plugins. They're all supporting Clap now. They support ARA, which is the really cool thing that plugins like Melodyne and Vocaline can use, so that instead of having to slowly transfer the audio from Reaper into Melodyne and then wait for it to process, it's instantaneous. Any changes you make in Reaper will then be reflected in Melodyne. I know other DAWs support that too, but it's great that Reaper has that functionality available. It's all about saving time. It's a little bit of a kind of a wild west when you first open Reaper and it's a blank page, and it can be quite terrifying because a lot of the buttons are in menus, or a lot of things are not immediately apparent to you, especially if you've not used the DAW before. Just any a digital audio workstation, a program that is designed to record lots of layers of audio and manipulate them into whatever it is you're working on, whether it's a song, voiceover, whatever it may be. But it's designed so that once you're comfortable with it, it's incredibly fast to work with. I highly recommend using a mouse because the left click and right click do very different things, but then right clicking to drag a box, left clicking to select something, left selecting to make time selection, I can do that in one swift move. It even supports multi-touch gestures, so if you've got anything like a Mac's trackpad, you can do gestures and multi-touch to get where you're going much faster. You can export everything in the project as separate files that are all named properly immediately. You can have them so they're time-stamped, and so that every time you get a call from the client that goes, oh, can you just change one thing, but then I need all the stems, you can go click, click, export, done. And the other reason to try Reaper is probably the price. It's not free, but it is very affordable. The discounted license, which is what almost everybody is going to need, is $60, and that gets you two versions, currently version 6 and version 7. And I've got the full commercial license because I use this in what I do in my everyday work. And that was $250, which is still a lot less than most companies, and is not a monthly subscription or anything like that. This license that I have will probably be good for several years because I can't see when Reaper 8 is going to come out, but it's going to be a while. But yeah, that's enough yakking from me for part 0 of Why Reaper. Now we're going to get into quite a long video about how to set things up right from the very beginning. And this is the one that is for most people who've not used Reaper before and need to get set up with something like an audio interface and a computer and get going so that everything works as it should. If you're interested in the absolute incredibly full version of this with everything, every last little detail, do check out the Ultimate Reaper Guide on Pro Mix Academy. The link for that is down in the description below. Thanks everybody, and I'll see you in the next section.